Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Pearce, and I welcome you to All Souls Church of Braintree. I welcome you in the hall and on Zoom. Our summer services are joining people in person in our parish hall together with people who are accessing the service virtually through Zoom. We have all been learning together in this endeavor, and we hope to continue expanding our understanding of what's possible and what's not. I'd like to give special thanks to Mary Mitchell, John Cobble, Ross Edwards, and Don Swanson for all their help setting up, and Mary for time that she spent with me as we continue to sort out the kinks and the tech work here. Virtual attendees can access the order of service through a link provided on the church website or in the chat. Is that
It's in there.
okay? Yeah. Please remain on mute unless you are speaking. The service will be recorded, but will not be shared with the general public. Please contact the church office if you'd like to receive the link to the edited video. An offering basket has been placed right over here to my left. Thank you for your generous contributions to support the programs and staff that bring us together. If you are joining us on Zoom, you may donate by going to the donate address in the chat, which is at allsoulsbraintree.org/donate.html. We're going to light the chalice and the green candle. I'll begin with the reading, 499 from the hymn, which I will read. This is a reading by William Wordsworth, and to me it captures the meaning of transcendentalism, which is a big part of our the thinking of our American Unitarian forebears. And it starts out, I have felt a presence that disturbs me with the joy of elevated thoughts, a sense sublime of something far more deeply interfused, whose dwelling is the light of setting suns, and the round ocean and the living air, a motion and a spirit that impels all thinking things, all objects of all thought, and rolls through all things. And we light our green candle, symbolic of our commitment to being a green sanctuary congregation. May both these flames call us to kinship with and great care for the earth and her living creatures. As many of you probably know, we have resolved to use our summer services to begin the practice of reading the opening sentence of our draft covenant each Sunday. This covenant offers special expectations for behavior that will build and strengthen our lives in community. It is still a draft, and your suggestions are welcome. So now let us read together the revised initial sentence of the draft covenant, which appears in your order of service. We covenant to create a caring, affirming, and inclusive community that invites us to become our best selves. Now is the time for joys and concerns. If you have a heartfelt milestone, joy, or sorrow you'd like to share, please come forward to this microphone. If you are joining virtually, you can unmute and wave your real hand, raise your virtual hand icon, or type a message in chat, and we will read it aloud. Actually, why don't we do the Zoom folks first? and I'll light a candle for all the sorrows and joys spoken aloud and held quietly in our hearts. And I'll drop one final stone. So here we go. My thoughts on the pandemic. The World Health Organization declared a worldwide pandemic on March 11th, 2020. It feels like years ago. On June 10th, 2021, the Wall Street Journal reported 2021 COVID deaths had already surpassed the count in 2020. So we're still not out of the woods. Based on CDC statistics, there have been about 36 million COVID infections so far. By comparison, in 2019 to 2020, there were an estimated 38 million influenza infections, very similar numbers. There have been at least 632,000 deaths from COVID. CDC estimates there were about 22,000 influenza deaths 2019 to 2020. Based on these numbers, you can surmise that the COVID death rate is about 30 times higher than the flu. It's a very unscientific sampling, but I found that interesting. So for anybody out there who thinks COVID is like the flu or common cold, it is not. But an infinitesimally small number of COVID deaths have occurred in fully vaccinated people. For all intents and purposes, if you're fully vaccinated, you are extremely unlikely to get seriously ill, let alone die. In the Provincetown outbreak, with over 500 confirmed infections, I went to the Provincetown website for this information. With over 500 confirmed infections, there have been no reported deaths, 0. Some reports say 74% of those infected were vaccinated. Unfortunately, people have gone to social media to use that as a message that the vaccines do not work. That, of course, is dead wrong. These reports also say 90% of gene-sequenced infections were from the Delta variant. I was pleased to hear also last week that Braintree's vaccination rate is around 70%. The vaccines work, period. We all know how mask requirements and vaccine mandates have been politicized. Well, I've decided I'm not going to dwell on that here. But I do have some thoughts to share. Some conservative pundits and politicians have made a lot of noise about unfilled jobs in certain sectors of the economy. Apparently, they think Americans are lazy and milking expanded unemployment benefits. They're simply ignoring the facts. Significant numbers of child care providers have terminated operations out of fear of the virus and out of fear of liability. And when child care is available, it is often exorbitantly expensive. There is considerable evidence that large numbers of women have dropped out of the workforce to take care of the kids at home. I heard one report, I think it was from CNN, I'm not entirely sure, that the proportion of women in the professional workforce has been set back to what it was decades ago. Significant numbers of workers in low-income jobs have changed occupations and found better work. There is some evidence that other workers were smart enough to know that wages would start to increase and bided their time before returning to work. And I ask, why would any rational person behave differently? The good news is that major retailers and supply chain sector companies are responding with boosted minimum wages. College tuition benefits are becoming a reality for some lower income workers for the first time ever. And more people are saying that a $15 an hour minimum wage is not enough. More and more say we need to go to $20 an hour. Bank of America and UPS happen to agree. Walmart, Amazon, and Target are implementing $15 an hour minimums. Another interesting fact, stuff that I've read, so stuff that I think is pretty factual. I've read reports that upwards of 4 million white-collar workers have simply quit their jobs. I've read many stories about how people have been willing to settle into less stressful work for lower pay and even relocate to more remote areas with a lower cost of living to improve the quality of their work-life balance. And this trend is definitely continuing. I seriously doubt that something like that would have happened under pre-pandemic conditions. Another thought. Our dependence on offshore manufacturing, particularly Chinese manufacturing, created supply chain problems in virtually every economic sector. This is just the latest consequence from the catastrophic loss of living wage manufacturing jobs that's been happening here in the US over the last 45 years. In the Reagan era, domestic production of goods came to be seen as nothing more than an added cost and burden on business. The Reagan administration and elite business schools succeeded in brainwashing the American public to ignore all the benefits of domestic manufacturing, and outsourcing became the rage of the 80s. And do we really save money in the end? How do you measure the toll of slave labor wages and the staggering cost of destroying the environment and health of millions of people overseas? Sooner or later, we will all end up paying that cost in one way or another, and it will be painful. With massive job cuts because of the shutdowns came sudden food and housing insecurity, and not just for low-income workers, but to millions of blue-collar and even professional white-collar workers living on the razor's edge between a middle-class lifestyle and financial calamity. When the national news showed the long lines of cars waiting for food supplies from food pantries across the country, particularly in Texas, California, and southern states, I noticed all the late model SUVs, high-trim pickup trucks, and upscale cars in those lines. I actually had a conversation about that at the picnic we had with someone here at church, and they noticed the same thing. Apparently, the American dream sits on a house of cards ready to collapse at any time. And oh, by the way, some of those cars were owned by military families dependent on spousal income. That disappeared with the pandemic. And spousal jobs are already difficult to obtain when your family is being reassigned all over the place year to year. So I asked, when did it become okay to have our military families depend on food pantries? Intersectionality became a buzzword with the pandemic. That is, the intersection of the consequences of racism, socioeconomic prejudice, systemic racism in housing, healthcare, and justice, intersecting with the more predictable consequences of an overwhelming pandemic. The pandemic exposed many chronic illnesses in our society. We have seen the inexcusable failure of our society to provide universal access to affordable, quality health care. There are so many people with preventable diseases and comorbidities, and there have been predictable higher death rates in communities of color, communities where there are literally no medical practices or doctors, none. Communities with no access to healthy nutrition. Communities with no access to healthy living. No health clubs, no parks, no clean air, polluted air because of proximity to major highways, and polluting businesses that are zoned only in their areas. These communities have very high rates of asthma, very likely caused by the polluted air. Asthma and COVID are absolutely a fatal combination. Same for diabetes and COVID, and heart disease and COVID. Also, there's a racial divide in occupational opportunities. People of color and lower socioeconomic standing are forced to work in close contact with others for long periods of time. They are forced to live in crowded conditions with extended family members who bring the virus home with them. There is no opportunity for anyone to work remotely from home. A lot of these factors are leading us to acknowledge systemic racism nationally for the first time. And I have a couple of other thoughts to close with. Millions fell behind on their rent. The Supreme Court ruled recently that only Congress can enact a new eviction moratorium. The emergency eviction moratorium expired recently, and CDC just declared an eviction emergency for the next 60 days. That will not hold up in court, but may buy enough time for Congress to act. What I really scratch my head about is there are billions of dollars already out there available for renter and landlord assistance, but the money has not been distributed. And I simply don't know why. I just don't know why. But I will end on a happy note. Full approval of the Pfizer vaccine is expected to occur by the end of September. I read an article about a small poll of people hesitant about the vaccine. It said about 20% of them would get the vaccine if it gets full approval. And we're having days recently with over 700,000 new vaccinations being administered daily across the country. So what I end with on that thought is be safe, be careful. As the British would say, stay calm and carry on. I'm going to do a reading for the extinguishing of the chalice. It's reading number 456 from the hymnal. I believe I used it in my prior service on the covenant, but I liked it so much I'm going to use it again. So as here, I'll hand this to you. Don is kind enough to help me. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you. We do have announcements, and I'm going to share those with you. Do we have the announcements on the?
This is.
Yeah, I have.
And Joe had some extra things.
Okay. Who has extra things?
Joe has.
Yeah, I printed that out.
Okay.
But it's not going to do me any good until I find it. Okay. All right. So I'll start with Joe. He wanted us to mention that the Board of Trustees will be meeting tomorrow night at 6:30 in the church Zoom room, and all are welcome to attend. A reminder that this coming Saturday, the 14th, from 3 to 5 p.m., will be a meet and greet picnic for our new minister, Reverend Bo Rivers. The picnic will be outdoors, weather permitting, or indoors if necessary. Setup is starting at 2 o'clock, and assorted paper goods will be provided. We will have a circle check where you'll be asked to introduce yourself and what your hopes and dreams are with our new incoming ministry. Did we put out the cards? I forgot to mention this. Did we put out the cards to be signed as a welcome for Reverend Bo?
No, but they are in the office still? We'll look for them.
So we'll look for them, yeah. My apologies, I forgot to do that. We also have a series of announcements on other upcoming events, and all events are online in the church Zoom room unless otherwise stated. So Monday, August 9th at 3:30 p.m. is a connection circle, actually, that I host each week. It's informal conversation. We talk about pretty much just about anything. And we have a lot of laughs. Sometimes it's a more serious tone, people sharing things in their lives. And it's been wonderful to get to know people better. That's been my personal experience. Then at 6:30 p.m. tomorrow night, we have the Board of Trustees meeting. Friday, August 13th at 10 a.m., we have a connection circle and coffee hour. It's a themed discussion. What is the theme, Mary? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
I think Marge is going to share with us. We're going to share the topic of miscommunication.
So Marge is going to share. Things about this.
Funny things when you haven't communicated properly. What can happen?
Funny things, hilarious things maybe, that can happen with miscommunication. Excuse me. Saturday, August 14th, as I mentioned a little while ago, at 3 p.m., we have the meet and greet picnic with Reverend Bo Rivers. That'll be in person on our church lawn. Sunday, August 15th at 10:30 a.m., Jane Fogg and Diane Doucette will be leading the summer service. And the topic will be trees. Coming up in 2 weeks, Saturday, August 21st at 2 p.m., we have yard sale pricing. That will be in person in the parish hall. It's been set up in a way that it's going to be really easy. And obviously, the more people who come in and help, the faster it will get done. Tom, would you like to come up and say something?
Actually, pricing's going to be Thursday, and it's a little mistake here. And if needed, on Friday afternoons. Saturday, hopefully there won't be any, or not very many last-minute things to price brought in, but that's for the setup of the hall.
Thank you, Tom. Sorry I got the day wrong there. Actually, I did know it was on Thursday, but just blindly reading what's in front of me here. So Sunday, August 22nd from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. is the yard sale, outdoors and indoors. And at 10:30, there will be a summer Sunday service of the sorts. Mike Domina and friends will be performing music in the parish hall. Are there any other? Yes. George Goss.
And Tuesday evening at 7:30 on Zoom will be the Social Action Committee meeting. Everyone is welcome to go to Zoom and come in. We're discussing roughly three things: looking for the fall as far as the education campaign for the Fair Share. There's issues of organizing discussions of racialism in U.S. society. And thirdly, we're looking for some issue of environmental justice that we can organize to include people in working on it. So again, that's Tuesday, August 10th, 7:30 on the church Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Is there anyone else? Okay. I think we're done. So thank you very much.